The Line Voltage is Too Damn High Productions presents a computer video. Hey, it's been a while, hasn't it? Hey folks, today we're going to be taking a look at this particular PC. It's a Gateway 2000 hiding under there. This little tiny Gateway 2000 E-1000 series PC. This particular one is a GP5-200E. And if you search GP5-200E, you will not find information about this. So E-1000 series is really what you want to go for. So this is an E-1000 series Gateway 2000 computer. Made or introduced in 1997, more than likely discontinued in 1998. It is quite an interesting computer. I really don't see many of these online. I bought this on eBay years ago when I was still actively collecting vintage PCs. I want to say I bought this in like 2018 or 2019, somewhere around there. So it was before the pandemic or any of that stuff started. I hunch is 2018. I bought it and I did nothing with it for all this time until now. Mainly because I was having issues with CF card solutions at the time, so I just kind of gave up on it and put it on the back burner. But now I've brought this out again and discovered this is quite an interesting computer, and I thought everyone out there would think the same thing. So first, let's look at the setup here. So I found as many period correct things as I could that I really like. So obviously we have a computer, we have a period correct beige monitor, a ViewSonic E50, a Fujitsu keyboard, which I believe is from the 90s. I got this keyboard new old stock. Feels very nice. Typing DOS commands on that feels good. I have a classic, a Microsoft IntelliPoint mouse. With that little guy there, look at him, he's adorable. And Cyber Acoustics computer speakers that I've had personally since around 97, 98. When I had my Power Mac as a kid. So everything here is period correct, and that's the setup. Now let's dig into the PC itself, because I think that is where it gets interesting. Doing research to find out information about this particular computer was not easy. So I'd like to present some of that research to you, just to give you a little bit of background on the machine, because the background on this one is actually interesting. Because it has a bit of computer history behind it. Doing the research for this video was no small feat. Finding information on the Gateway E-1000 series now seems to be a bit hard. It's not readily available online. It was released in 1997, so the internet really wasn't in full swing back then. It was still kind of a novelty, I guess. It was useful, you know, for sure, but it was still kind of a novelty to a lot of people that weren't in the know. So the first place I thought I would look is magazines. And here we have a copy of PC Mag from November 18th, 1997. And here we have a Gateway advertisement. It's no accident, folks. Gateway 2000. There's your cows taking over the city there. That's classic, isn't it? Hot in the city. Gotta love the Billy Idol reference there. And here are your range of machines at the time. You had servers, E-Series workstations, which is what we're looking at today. They are a business class computer, so this is not just some consumer thing that is kind of generic. At the time, the DVD was fairly new, as you can see there. The Gateway Destination existed at the time with its 35.5-inch monitor. It's insane. High-rise value. And here's what we're looking at, the E-Series desktops and workstations. You can see here that some of them had Pentium 2s at the time. That was brand new. You had desktop management interface, LAN desk client manager. Very, very, very business-oriented stuff. And this is the first place I found a picture of the machine, right there. I'll splice in a picture here where you can see it a little bit better in the video. But this is the first place I found a picture of it, was in this magazine. Now, there were pictures of people selling these on eBay and things like that, but that was really it. This is a picture of it new at the time, and you can see it came with one of those big gateway monitors. It was a nice small PC. It came with a fairly generic keyboard there. They have specs for some of them down there. Again, I'll post a screenshot of this in the video so that it looks a little better. But you could get them on the low end with a Pentium MMX or on the high end with a Pentium 2, it looks like. Low profile desktop or mid-tower case. And we have the low profile version of this case. You get hardware management and desktop management stuff, which was very business oriented at the time, and the Gateway Gold service and support, which I think is their business support. So this is the first place I saw it. And that got me looking around some more on Google Books, of all places. So here we have the E-1000 series in InfoWorld magazine, and here's a screenshot of the specs there. This looks like this is an example of what the base model would be: a Pentium 166 MMX, 16 megs of RAM, 2 meg video, a 1.2 gig hard drive. Sound Blaster compatible business audio. That's indeed what we have. Windows 95. These came with either Windows 95 or Windows NT 4.0. So you'd expect in a lot of businesses to see NT 4.0. So this is another place that I managed to find it. And in another copy of InfoWorld, what was the last InfoWorld? That was October 1997 for the spec sheet sticker one. For this particular one with the article in it, it's from June 1997. So this might have been right around the time they were being introduced. I'll post a screenshot of this in case you want to read it and so you can see it better. They compare this against the IBM NetPC at the time, and this is where NetPC gets interesting. NetPC at the time was a standard that was sort of a joint effort between many different companies. You can see that computer there is pretty simplistic. It's small compared to the monitor there. Same with the gateway down here, except that this gateway is a more full-fledged PC in a small package. It's really just a small form factor desktop. But yet it was competing and part of the NetPC standard that was being touted at the time. As you can see, it uses Intel's LANDesk client management, which is, I don't know if that's like a lights out management or if that's like a wake on LAN thing. I don't know what that is. I never used it at the time because I was a kid. Here's where it gets interesting again. I looked up the NetPC standard, which was a little hard to find on its own. Google led me nowhere. I had to use, I think, DuckDuckGo to find it. And NetPC stood for Network PC, so it was a standard for PCs at the time that promoted network connectivity. It was introduced in 1997, the same year as the computer. So if you read this here, it says NetPCs could be configured as FAT clients, but all the software was monitored by a management server for version upgrades. Designed to boot from the network, floppy disks and CD-ROM drives were discouraged. So this was a standard that really tried to get away from the traditional PC, as we know. And I think IBM was more behind that than Gateway 2000 was, because Gateway 2000's offering is definitely a full-fledged PC. So it boots from the network. So I guess that's Pixie booting. Here's where it gets interesting. Here's a diagram. So here's a normal PC in a network environment, right? You have the actual computer here, and you have the server, right? Windows, Unix, or Linux server. PC has the full complement of storage devices. Programs can be installed or upgraded from CDs or the network. So they act independently of each other, but work together, right? You have a terminal, which relies pretty much on the server entirely. You have a network computer, which I'm not really sure of this particular standard. This is probably an old standard that I never really got to use. And NetPC. Fat NetPCs obtained their OS and app installations and upgrades from the server. Thin NetPCs were like these network computers that were booted from the server. So I guess a thin NetPC might have been what became a thin client. I think this whole NetPC standard basically turned into a thin client type of idea. So I thought that was a bit interesting, this diagram here. If you guys want to read any of this, I will put links in the description with these links to the magazines and Google Books and this encyclopedia for NetPC if you want to take a look at it. So, a little bit of background here. I thought that was a bit interesting. Let's get to the machine itself. Here's a nice shot of the computer itself. It's quite a deep machine. I made a video years ago about a little Leo PC, and that thing was very small. It was a Cyrix-based computer that had a similar form factor to this, but it was even smaller. This is a similar size, I'd say, lengthwise, but depth-wise, it is much, much, much deeper. Bigger motherboard, better specs, just about. It's kind of what that other machine could have been if it grew up, to borrow a phrase from UXW Bill. But here we have the front plate. It has full-fledged PC functionality here with a CD-ROM drive and a 3.5-inch floppy drive. Came with a Pentium MMX. This particular configuration has a Pentium 200 MMX in it. It has a headphone jack on the front, which to me screams education. This is definitely the kind of computer that I would expect to find in a library or a school, something like that, where the NetPC protocol was being used. I think libraries, schools, offices, workplaces, anywhere that would have a would benefit from a server managing all their software. But in particular, that headphone jack really makes me think of education. So, you know, I'd expect to see this in a school library, for example, where you'd be looking up things in the school's databases for doing book reports and things like that. On the side here, you have a cooling fan, which lets out a lot of hot air on this model. That Pentium 200 gets pretty hot. You have these little things on each side. You pull these out to take the case off. Just have some vents here. There's a serial number and a warranty sticker. Tab on that side. Luckily they're not broken. Here's the rear of the machine. Power supply stuff on this side, which I find it unusual they use this kind of cutout for the voltage selector switch and a smaller one for the actual power cord, because if you look at a power cord, it has a very similar shape to that opening. Kind of unusual. That's something I just kind of noticed now. Kensington lock slot there. Built-in audio, which is Sound Blaster compatible. It uses a Crystal Audio chipset. So no need for a sound card. It looks like this one's been bent over a little bit, actually. Ugh. USB 1.1, which is very new at the time. This was 1997 when this machine was introduced. So Windows 95 and NT barely had support for it, but these days you can get that support up to snuff with modified versions of Windows 95, which we will see later when we turn the computer on. PS2 keyboard and mouse ports, parallel port, serial port, VGA over here, which uses S3 Trio 64 for the video chipset, and Ethernet, which has an AMD chipset, oddly enough. AMD made some pretty good Ethernet chipsets back in the day. And that Ethernet port really sets this PC apart, I think, from a lot of others at the time that I've seen. This is very significant in relation to the NetPC standard that we talked about earlier. All these NetPC standard computers had built-in networking like that. And, you know, that eventually carried forward into newer PCs where they had, you know, on a consumer level, you'd have a modem built in or something like that. But on the business side, you had networking. Really sets the computer apart, I think. You also get 2 slots here, but you get 3 connections inside, which we'll see later. I should put a blank there. One of the best benefits of this machine is how serviceable it is. Let me turn it around so that it's facing the front of the desk here. So you pull on those tabs that we saw earlier, you pull them out on both sides, pull it up, pull the thing off, and you have full access to your machine. So here we have the inside of the machine. It has a light-on CD-ROM drive, has a Panasonic floppy drive, made in the Philippines. How about that? And you have this long power supply here with the fan. And it is a 120 watt power supply made by Tiger Power. You can see the max amperage at the bottom here. It's a pretty puny power supply. Really, to see the guts of this machine, you have to take the drives out. But we'll look at the drive first. This has its original hard drive in it still, and the hard drive still works. It's a Western Digital Caviar 24300 AT compatible intelligent drive. This is a 4 gigabyte hard drive. There's your manufacturing date, April 9th, 1998. These particular Caviar drives seem to last forever. I have a couple of these. I even have one from the 486 era that still works. So Western Digital was making really good stuff back then. Here's the serviceability thing. Pull that clip out. It kind of hinges out of these vents in the power supply. And you can get underneath to get to the RAM. This has 64 megs of RAM in it. So it was obviously either upgraded or was a high-end model. Looks like the CD-ROM stuff is plugged in still. That's good. There's not much to see under there. Well, actually there is. Never mind. There's the Crystal audio chipset. The CS4236B. That is the particular audio chipset we're using, and it's a very good one. It's Sound Blaster Pro compatible, so it's very good for DOS, which of course is important for us in this day and age when most people use these computers for vintage software. Alright, here's the inside of the computer here. Further, it looks like we have some video RAM here and possibly an upgrade slot for video RAM there. This is an AMD PCNet Fast chipset. I don't know if that's Fast Ethernet or not. I don't know when the Fast Ethernet protocol came out. I want to say it is, but we're going to have to double check that. Oh, here's the video chipset. There's your S3 Trio 64 V2/DX. Still has some 486 nomenclature there. But yeah, there's your video. I don't know what these are. That might be video RAM. These could be video RAM as well. I'm not really sure. There's an Intel chipset down there. What does it say? It says PCI set. So that's just a PCI chipset. Let me take these drives out so we can see better. To give this machine a lot of kudos. There are some screw holes here, here, and up here that let you take brackets off that hold the floppy drive and the CD-ROM drive. Very modular machine, very easy to work on. It's a continuing theme with this computer. And the reason I had to move all that was to show you all this. Here's a little heatsink and fan for the Pentium 200 megahertz MMX. One hell of a voltage regulator down there is my guess as to what that is. Look at those capacitors and those giant heat sinks there. There appears to be a set of dip switches there, which I assume is probably for configuring the processor. What else is under here? You got your floppy header there, your IDE header here. There are two IDE headers on this board. I would guess that there is probably the BIOS or something. There's a little piezo speaker here, but I have noticed that when I have speakers plugged in, it actually beeps through the audio output, which is kind of nice. Looks like we have... is this the headphone jack? So here's a header for the headphone jack on the front here. Has its own special header. You've got your front panel headers here, which is pretty simple for the time. It's just a power switch, a power LED, and a hard drive light. Pretty hard to screw up. It's not even the standard layout. It's very stripped down. Now underneath this cable here, there is your battery. Takes a standard CR2032 button cell battery, which I should probably change while I'm in here, so we'll do that. But yeah, that's the hardware. It's pretty cool vintage business class hardware. It's built really well. Reminds me a lot of the compacts of the time, although with less weirdness with the screws and proprietary power supplies, although look at this power supply, it's pretty proprietary as well. But it has its own distinct style, and this is a style I happen to really like. So I'm probably going to either pull that battery out and leave it out, or change it. I'm not sure. But we'll measure the voltage on the battery and see how it is after damn near 25 years. 2.85 volts. 2.85 volts. So it's definitely reading a little bit low. But that's pretty good for 25 years or so. Wow. So we'll definitely put a new battery in there. Here's a new CR2032 battery, an Energizer one, which is better than a Duracell Leak-O-Matic battery any day of the week. Never mind the minus, I have it reversed, but 3.3 volts, right where it should be. So that battery's good. We will stick the Energizer into the computer. There you go. Energized. Alright, I have installed a new blank here, since that used to have a CF card adapter that ended up not working out in this computer. This computer has I think a 4-bit LBA, so it's very picky about drives, so that's part of the reason I've left the original hard drive in there. Plus, 4 gigabytes is enough for Windows 95, I think. Anyway, last part of looking inside this computer. Here's the chassis intrusion switch. Quite a tactile switch, actually. And here's your expansion, which is on a riser card here, as you can see. You get quite an ideal set of expansion slots for a machine of this era, I would say. You get 2 PCI slots, and you get an ISA slot. You could use the ISA slot for a sound card, but in this system you really don't need to, because the onboard Crystal audio chipset is Sound Blaster Pro compatible. You are good as far as DOS games are concerned with this computer. PCI slots, well, I think the graphics chipset, like the S3 down here, I think that is on the PCI bus. So if you wanted to upgrade the graphics on a computer like this, that's where I'd go. I'd go in the PCI slot there and stick a GPU in here. But for my purposes, I think that the built-in graphics is probably fine. I wonder if I could upgrade the video RAM in that particular slot there, that socket. So, that'd be an interesting question. But yeah, the expansion on this is quite ideal, I would say. PCI and ISA. Here's the bottom tag of the machine. It is a Gateway 2000 model E-1000. Here's the lot and the serial number and the manufacturing date. It uses the PC55C200. That's the model of Pentium 200 that is in this particular computer. So that is original to the machine. So this was a really nicely spec'd out machine for the time. Probably mid-range, I would say. Higher end would have a Pentium 2, but the mid-range would probably have a fast Pentium, like this has. And the 4 gig hard drive as opposed to the 1.2 gig. The manufacturing date is interesting. April 17th, 1998. Now, that's very late for this machine. That is almost a year after this was introduced, I want to say, in that particular magazine clipping that we looked at. So, this is also around the time that Gateway 2000 was changing their branding over to just Gateway. So, this is one of the last Gateway 2000 computers ever made, I would say. Probably not the last one, but pretty close. So that's an interesting footnote of history for this computer as well. Okay, PC's back together, all buttoned up. Here for your viewing pleasure. Let me turn the power strip on. And since we changed the CMOS battery, we're probably going to see some interesting results from the first boot up. So let's turn the computer on, shall we? CMOS checksum bad. So the battery was still reading good. Run setup, yes. There we go. So here's the BIOS. It's a standard Gateway 2000 BIOS. It's dated 1997. In fact, let me zoom into the screen here. Well, I guess I'm going to switch to an LCD monitor for filming this because this is not looking great. But it does work with the CRT. Looks pretty good. But for filming, we'll switch to a better display. So let me shut this off. There you go, a Dell monitor from 2003 or 2004, somewhere around there. That'll work, right? All right, let's see why we're not getting a CD-ROM drive in Windows. It says it's not present. Figured it out. IDE cable wasn't plugged in all the way. Now Windows should be happy with me, I hope. Yep, it saw it that time. Okay, we're good. There it is. Cool. Yeah, lesson learned. Plug the IDE cable in all the way when you're putting your computer back together. There we have Windows 95 Desktop. Okay, now we're done troubleshooting. Let's look at the computer. So, I've installed Windows 95 on this machine, and because that's originally what it shipped with. It was either that or Windows NT. When I first started experimenting with this computer, I used Windows 98, and 98 did run okay on here, but 95 is so much lighter in a big way. So 95 is just a better option for this. I managed to find driver disks on archive.org that had the drivers for this machine. So there are drivers available for this series of computer. There are also modified Windows 95 options. This is running Windows 95D Lite. As you can see here, Windows 95 4.00.950D. D is a special release of Windows 95 that's had a lot of things added to it that are useful in the modern age. Things like USB mass storage device drivers, a much more complete driver stack so you don't have to install drivers in the first place, amongst other improvements. So I was able to take flash drives and things like that, plug it into the back, and put some software on here really easily. For example, Microsoft Office. And there you go. So I can write a few things and get some help from the paperclip. Ah! Looks like you try to save humanity. Would you like some help? There you go. Word 97. So the full suite's on here. I have everything. So Binder, Excel, Outlook, PowerPoint, and Word. Word, Excel, and PowerPoint are probably all I'd ever use on this machine. Wow, that sound. Well, there you go. Office productivity. If you're seeing this, this is actually a scratch on the monitor. I hit it with a computer once and it bugs me to this day. So try to ignore it like I am. Alright, so let's look at the capabilities of this machine. We have first of all, the sound device here, the 4236, which is what we looked at inside the machine. It can do MPU04, and it can do FM synthesis. And of course, I use FM synthesis for games and things like that. So, good demonstration would just be how this particular sound card sounds. So let's do everybody's favorite, Canyon. What? What? Windows 95 is the best! Oh, what happened? What happened? Wow. Wow. That was the Windows 95 experience I remember from the mid-90s. Well, we have a cursor. Yeah, I think it's crashed. Nice. Let's hard reset the computer. Whew, boy. All I wanted to do was play noises. Man, that RAM noise is something else, isn't it? Here's your example of a PC speaker beep through the actual computer speakers rather than through the little piezo beeper. Wow, it's really not happy with me. But yeah, examples of PC speaker beeps through the real speakers. Which I kind of like because I can control the volume. Okay, we're back. And that it appeared to just be a fluke because it's working fine now. And there you go. Sound Blaster Pro compatible right there. You can just hear that. One of the other MIDI pieces of MIDI music that really sounds distinctive on a Sound Blaster Pro type setup is Passport. There you go. Sound Blaster Pro right there. Good stuff. Very good stuff. So that means for DOS and Windows stuff, it's going to be fantastic. So why don't we fire up a game and show you what the performance is like. 3D Ultra Pinball. Of course, this is one of my childhood favorites.
Phew! Sierra!
Great game. Great game.
Colony table activated.
This is the reason I wanted to show this. So, this game has graphical glitches a lot of the time. It only does this at 640 by 480. It's still playable, kind of, but it looks terrible. And this is why I started with 3D Ultra Pinball. You'll find this with old computers sometimes. You'll get weird graphical glitches like this. If I run this at 800 by 600, won't be an issue. So, let's go to 800 by 600. monitor will readjust itself, and we go back into 3D Ultra Pinball. It's kind of in a window here. Not ideal, but whatever.
Colony table activated.
Now it looks fine.
To start bonuses,
So that's an odd quirk that I've noticed with this. The Nostalgia Mall and I both have noticed this on certain Windows 95 machines. This happens. It doesn't happen on Windows 95A at 640 by 480, but B, OSR 2, 2.1, 2.5, and 98D Lite, it happens. So let's play a quick game, shall we?
Post. Shoot that tunnel, not forward.
Now, the interesting thing about this game... Wow, it's loud. The interesting thing about this game is that it was... I believe it was developed using assets left over from a Sierra game called Outpost. So they just used it and made a pinball game out of it. I might be wrong about that, but that's what I remember. Definitely one of my childhood favorites. I played this on my childhood Mac back in the day. What? Did you see that glitch there? It went straight through there. What? In 30 years, 25, 30 years, I've never seen that. Wouldn't be 30 years, it'd be like 25 years. I have never seen that happen. I'm glad we got that on camera. Yeah, this is a fun pinball game. I like this one a lot. The tables are really cool. It doesn't beat Epic Pinball, but it's fun. There we go, I got the glider. Yeah, I always loved that. Let me see if I can... I've kind of like muscle memory the ball physics here. Oh, come on. But yeah, there's 3D Ultra Pinball. I think we can follow that up with something else. We'll follow that up with Epic Pinball at some point. Just to show a DOS game running in Windows 95, as they do, we will go to pinball.exe and run it. Tilt this monitor down a little bit, that's better. Let's go to my favorite table, Crash and Burn. There you go. Wow, that was bad. Oh, God. I'm so bad. Yeah, look at that. Really, really cool table. So as you can see, for DOS and Windows software, it runs very well. You'd expect it to with a Pentium 200 MMX. So there's a good example of how it runs a few pieces of software in Windows 95. Enter your initials. Ass! So there's a few examples of pinball games in Windows 95 and DOS within Windows 95. One thing I did have to do to this Windows 95 is I needed to configure DOS properly. So I turned High Mem on. I needed the Sound Blaster card was already set properly. Needed a mouse driver. I needed a few other things, but it all works. I tried a few other operating systems on here, as I mentioned earlier. I tried Windows 98. Windows 98 was pretty good on here, actually. It was a bit heavier on the system than Windows 95. I think 95 is a better fit. I did try Windows 2000 as well. 2000 does run on here, but it runs awfully slowly. So you definitely want at least a Pentium 2 for Windows 2000, I would say, and even 98 as well. Pentium 2 is much better suited to those two operating systems. So I put Windows 2000 on it, so you don't have to. There you go, Windows 2000 on a Pentium 200 with 64 megs of RAM. It doesn't start up too fast, but once it's started up, it's not that bad. No, at least not as bad as you'd think it would be. It still kind of churns the drive. But once it starts up, we're in good shape here. Look at this. 64 megs of RAM and Windows 2000. There you go. Yeah, it actually doesn't run that badly at all. It could be faster. It wouldn't be my first choice for a computer like this. But, you know, things you'd expect to work do work. Just not that well. Jeez, that game is loud. But yeah, Windows 2000 does work on a system like this. You can put it on there. But honestly, if you're going to use 2000, I would go up to a Pentium 2, at least. Like a Pentium 2 300, 350, 400. I ran it on a Pentium 2 400 when I was a kid, and it ran really well on one of those. So I say if you're going to use Windows 2000, the minimum really should be a Pentium 2. So even a Pentium MMX, really 95 is an NT4 or where it's at, I would say. Maybe Linux back in the day would work pretty well on one of these, I'm not sure. But there you have it. So let's demonstrate a few more pieces of software that I think you'll find entertaining. Let me go find my Kix Pix Studio disc. Now we're going to take a look at Kix Pix Studio for one reason in particular that I think you'll find quite amusing, actually. So, software like this, software like Kix Pix Studio, was made for the 486 era, I would say. And when you run something like that on an MMX Pentium, it might not be ideal for... it might not be very ideal. You might actually want a slower machine sometimes for certain software. And Kix Pix is definitely one of those. Kix Pix Studio in particular. Alright, Kix Pix is the classic.
Paint a picture.
This was made for the 486 era, so, you know, it's a drawing program, you know. It's better than Microsoft Paint, I think. You can do some fun things with it. So, pretty cool. You get wacky brush stuff. That didn't really work, did it? Let's... There's some issues here. Like, I can't see what it's doing, and I don't understand why. So I don't know if there's like a color issue going on, but yeah, this is a weird quirk. I want to say it's because the CPU is too fast, because when I use the bomb to blow everything up, it's fast, it doesn't get rid of any of this. So this is a weird quirk with this particular machine. I don't know if this version of Kix Pix is too old. I wouldn't think so. But I think a lot of these issues stem from either graphics drivers or because the software is too fast.
Oh no!
Now it works. What? I got it to work somehow. So what happens if I choose like red? Now it's working. Forget all I said. How quirky and weird. Well, that didn't work. Man, I don't know. There's some graphical thing going on here. Yeah, something graphically is wrong. I don't know what the deal is there. Let's check out Wacky TV. This thing has... Wacky TV has a few funny things I think you'll like.
Choose a movie to watch.
What? Oh, why, Windows? Why? Wacky caused a general protection fault. So I'm having protection errors. I don't get what's going on here. Yeah, Windows is just crashing and burning right now. I don't know why. I don't... Kernel 386. Wow. Just restart the computer. Man! This thing is being a real jerk today. Ever since I replaced that battery. I gave it a new battery and this is what I get. Nothing but issues. I don't know if there's an IRQ problem or what's going on. That's unusual. Honest to God, this thing has been stable as a rock up until I changed that battery, and we've been filming today. So I want to say changing that battery changed a setting in the BIOS somewhere that's making Windows very unhappy. Whatever. This happened once with the with MIDI software, and now it's happening with this.
Choose a movie to watch.
Does it say change a movie to watch? There we go. Yeah, it's just a bit unstable. I wonder why it's doing that. Check this out. This is middle America to the extreme.
Greetings from Milwaukee, Oregon, and the Bomber Gas. When you're driving on the old Pacific Coast Highway near Portland, don't panic at the sight of this low-flying B-17 bomber. It's just World War II veteran Art Lacey's idea for a good way to draw customers into his gas station. Art says that when people see the big bomber, they just jam on the brakes and head on in to fill up their tanks with gas. But what is the real secret to Art's success?
There's an old proverb that my wife and I have both used over the years. If you stick and stay, you'll make it pay. And people like to go where other people is, not where they ain't.
There's a lot of clips like that in here.
Reading?
A lot of very middle America kind of stuff, like very touristy kind of stuff. Like, here's one from Florida.
Greetings from Miami, Florida, and the parrot jungle. There are a whole lot of birds at this 1,300-acre feathered paradise, where 1,000 exotic birds are just part of the daily show. flamingos in formation, performing parrots, and a very savvy rainbow-colored macaw.
Listen here. I run a clean game. Come up a little bit. You got your eye on it? You're not losing it now. Atta boy. Where is it? You look at that. He beat me 3 times in a row.
There you go. Now here's what I really wanted to show you.
Greetings from Darwin, Minnesota, and the Curiosity Corner. This quiet corner of rural America contains a curious collection of objects which represent the personal treasures of Francis A. Johnson, a man who hates to see anything go to waste.
I got over 400 different kinds of hammers, hatchets, and maulers. I got some 80 different kinds of sad irons. I got dozens and dozens of gadgets that most people don't know what they're for.
But the most curious thing in Mr. Johnson's collection is this, the world's largest ball of twine.
The last time it left the yard, my ball of twine weighed 21,140 pounds. It's a little bit over 40 feet in circumference. It's been sitting still now for 4 years.
In 1958, a forklift truck loaded the ball of twine onto a truck headed to New York City for an appearance on the Gary Moore Show.
I've also got another racket that I'm really proud of. I whittle these little wooden pliers, and I sell them to kids, and I tell the kids that they should never in their life smoke a cigarette. They should whittle instead. That's what I do.
So, if you're looking to stay healthy and happy, just put a little whittling and winding in your life.
What a charming old man. I love that video. Here we have the Wacky Color 2000 television from 1996. Now there's a folder on the Kix Pix CD called Weird. And this, I found, I was playing around with this, talking to Nostalgia Mall one night while he was helping me out with this computer, with some of the DOS configurations and things like that. I found an absolute treasure of a clip that just made us both laugh. Check this out.
Your feet are not made to wear big fat shoes like that. Your feet are not made to wear big fat shoes like that. Your feet are not made to wear big fat shoes like that.
I don't know why that made us crack up at the time, but what a random thing to include on an education, or I don't know if this is educational, but a drawing program. And this is from an old film about platform shoes in the 70s. It's on YouTube too. I'll put the link for that in the description in case you want to watch it. But yeah, there you go. That is something amusing I wanted to show you. That's Kix Pix Studio. So, now the other thing we definitely want to check out is DOS gaming. So I've configured DOS properly. Let's see if I made it unstable by changing the battery, right? You might be able to hear a high-pitched whine in the background. That is badly shielded sound on the... This is not auto-adjusted particularly well. But anyway, you can hear that whine in the background. That is sound. That's the sound of the computer coming through the built-in audio. It's not very well shielded, as was typical for the time. All right, I say the first order of business is, of course, Doom, right? As you can see, it works great. Let's try Hurt Me Plenty. There you go. There's a secret here somewhere. See if I can find it. I believe it's here somewhere. Let me, where's the action button? I thought there was a button there, I guess not. To open this right here? Yeah. Anyway. There you go. Everything runs Doom, so you gotta make sure it runs Doom, right? But I think Doom 2 is better. Much better. So we'll run that. This is my favorite version of Doom. Doom 2 I thought was so much better. Let's just sneak over here and, be very, very quiet. Yeah! Man, this is a fun game. The reason Doom 2 is better is because it has the double-barrel shotgun, the super shotgun. So there you go. Build engine games seem to work. Here's one of the ultimate tests for sound card compatibility, Duke Nukem 2. I wish I could adjust the... Ugh. Yeah, please let me adjust the positioning. This is very annoying. There we go. This doesn't happen on the CRT, but, yeah. Anyway. As you can hear, the sound effects all work properly.
I am back.
And there you go. That's one of the games you can really test for Sound Blaster compatibility is this one. The other one, surprisingly, that is a good benchmark for certain systems is Fatty Bear's Birthday Surprise. Not the Windows version on the CD, but the DOS version. The DOS version of that game I found was actually really good for seeing how the machine was running. This machine was not running in high mem mode, and the reason, and you could really see it in Fatty Bear's Birthday Surprise on DOS. Whenever sound effects and music were playing at the same time, it would slow the game down, and enabling high mem fixed it. So that was a good indicator of low memory there. Oh, what else can I show you? I think showing Fatty Bear's Birthday Surprise on DOS might be worth it, just because there's some hilarious things you can do in the DOS version of this. And the DOS version also has better quality music.
Good night, Kayla.
Good night, Dad. Tomorrow's my birthday, and Mom and Dad said I have a big surprise. surprise for me. Good night, Fatty
Now, when I ran the CD-ROM version of this on Windows 98, it actually stuttered a little bit.
I love you.
You can see how smooth this is. There's no stuttering of the audio, no I/O overhead, nothing. Nothing. It works perfectly.
There's a lot of work to do before Kayla wakes up. I want to make her a big, beautiful birthday cake. Oh, will she ever be surprised?
You can see the speed is
I
right.
better get busy too. I've got a lot of decorating to do. I mean, Fatty Bear.
Okay, be quiet. So one thing I noticed when I was testing this memory issue was that if you look at the mouse's tail there on the clock, it was moving very slowly while Fatty Bear was talking and there were sound effects playing. And that tick-tock you hear is a Sound Blaster sound effect. So effectively what was happening there is because there was such low memory, it was actually bogging down the game big time. And you'd think it wouldn't bog down in a child's educational game like this, right? But oddly enough, this is a really good example of it. And one thing I found with the DOS version is if you hold down the Alt key, you can make it go really fast. Look at that. So you can do that and click on, people.
I'm a giggle put. You're making me giggle. Hey, watch it, Twinkle Toes.
Yeah. Funny quirk in this game. Yeah, there you go. 1993. Pretty old game. Main memory size, 349K. So it uses quite a bit of memory, conventional memory. Game is fun, yes. Video speed 4. Yeah, so that shows everything. There you go. That game is a pretty good indicator. There are a couple games that are a good indicator of how your system's running. Fatty Bear's DOS version's a good one. That will also tell you whether your sound card is compatible with Sound Blaster and ad-lib sound effects and all that stuff. Duke Nukem 2 is the other good one. And Skyroad's Christmas Special, one that Nostalgia Mall uses, is also a very good indicator. Now, there are games that require a little bit of performance to run. One of those is Duke Nukem, of course. And I mean 3D. Is it the 3D folder? Duke 3D, right? Duke 3D, of course, works fine. Now, a lot of these games just wouldn't even run when I didn't have HiMem enabled. All right.
Let's rock.
Hard drive is loading stuff. That's enough out of you there, mister. A is jump, yep. So yeah, look how smooth this runs. It runs great. Let's see if I got him from here. So a game like this, on a Pentium MMX, it'll run fine. Like, it'll just run fine. It really makes me wonder what kind of extra capability the MMX gives you for games. Like maybe some CD-ROM games that need a little extra CPU. I don't know what needs the MMX instruction set, really. It seems like an odd in-betweener. I would think most games would just jump to the Pentium 2 for a system requirement, but maybe you can just barely get away with it on a Pentium 200. I'm not game's awfully dark. There you go. Yeah, get blown up into a million pieces. Let's blow everyone up. Woo! Well, you get the idea. So, a Pentium MMX 200 does make a good DOS gaming machine. However, I think the CPU for some uses is actually too fast. And that's even true with the non-MMX Pentiums sometimes. It makes playing games a little bit difficult sometimes. You might need a program like MoSlow to control the speed. And of course, in modern emulation with things like PCM and 86box, you can just make yourself a virtual machine with the hardware of the time that you want to play certain games. So it is actually easier to get with game compatibility to emulate these old machines than it is to use the real thing. But I still think the real thing is a lot of fun, so here we are using it. So let's hit mem right there. So here you go. You have 640K conventional memory. Your upper registers are 67K and 64 megs of extended RAM. Way more than you'd ever need in DOS. Well, there you have it. That is the Gateway 2000 E-1000 series machine. The GP5-200E in this particular case. Very interesting little machine. You know, it was built on the NetPC standard at the time, which was supposed to be very minimalist for network connectivity in a business-oriented environment. And Gateway decided to not build a full NetPC standard machine. Even though it was part of the standard, it really wasn't as cut down as something like the IBM NetPC was. This computer was still a full-fledged PC with Sound Blaster compatible audio, IDE. It was a full PC with a Pentium 200 in it. So it was hardly a dumb computer at the time. It was very smart and very small. It was, to me, it seems like kind of the forerunner to small form factor business PCs that came in the future, such as the Desk Pro EN. That could have even been out at this same time. So this could have been a common thing among manufacturers. I'm not entirely sure. But the NetPC standard didn't really catch on at the time. But I think the idea of networking everything in a business caught on a long time before that. They were talking about that in the early 80s. Local area networks. So this was a client-server type of deal that they were looking at. I think this is a very nice little computer. I don't really see them very often, and there's not much information about them online. But they're a nice little machine, and they hold up well today because they're highly compatible with DOS games and things like that. And the Pentium 200 MMX is no slouch. That's a pretty good chip. It can run Windows 2000. Not well, but it can run it. So, in conclusion, I think it's a very interesting machine. Definitely a history footnote. One of the last Gateway 2000 machines ever made. I will add, I did try to run some higher level stuff on here. I tried to run Half-Life 1 on this machine, and the frame rate was not very good. So it has its limitations. That's where you'd want something like a Pentium 2, which is an era we will explore in the future. I have a Pentium 2 Gateway machine that we can take a look at as well, and compare and contrast a Pentium MMX machine of the era versus a Pentium 2 400 just a few years later. So, pretty cool machine. I could definitely imagine seeing these in workplaces and offices, schools, libraries, perhaps even school libraries, running Windows NT4 or Windows 95, likely NT4 in a business environment, highly connected to servers where they get software from the server to run on the machine. where it's kind of a hybrid between a dumb terminal and a full-fledged PC. At least that's what the NetPC standard, I think, was supposed to be. But this machine didn't really follow that. I think the approach they took with this is that they wanted it to be a full-fledged PC just in case the NetPC standard didn't work out. And that ended up being a smart move, because 25 years later, this is still a great computer to use. So, there you have it. One last good look at the machine. There you have it, the Gateway E-1000 GP5-200E, part of the E-1000 series. Curious little footnote in history, nice little machine. If you happen to see one of these somewhere and you think it might look kind of like a piece of crap, oh, how wrong you are. This is actually a pretty great machine. One of the nicer small form factor machines I've ever used from the 90s for playing games. Runs DOS games well. It runs Windows CD-ROM multimedia games very well. Has a headphone jack on the front, which to me screams education. So, you know, running software like that would fit right in, I think. And it was right before the era of things like the Desk Pro EN where all this compatibility started to go away. So it's kind of right at the end of that. I think Pentium 2 was the last time all that compatibility was really together. But this machine, oh man, it impresses me. It's cute, it's functional, and it's a nice little footnote in history, as I keep saying over and over again. So I hope you enjoyed taking a look at this computer with me. I think it's pretty cool. If you happen to see one of these, definitely save it. It's not a piece of junk by any means. These are highly compatible, very good small form factor DOS machines and Windows 95 machines and Windows NT 4.0 machines. So, with that, I would like to say that I hope you enjoyed the video. If you'd like to reach me on social media, my links are down below, as well as our Discord chat. And have a good one, everybody. Ciao.